In this video, I discuss why many expats never find their perfect retire cheap paradise. The truth is we're all different. We have our own unique needs, so your paradise may not be the same as mine. If you listen to the end of this video, I will give you a copy of how to find your perfect retire cheap paradise. I will show you pictures of the 65 countries I visited while I explain why our example expat Jim had trouble finding his perfect paradise. In this example, expat Jim grew up near mountains and likes to fish. He also likes to hike and play in waterfalls to cool off after a long hike. In the evenings on weekends, he enjoys playing the harmonica with friends at live music venues around town. During his working years, he vacationed a few times in the Caribbean and always dreamed of retiring in warmer weather one day. When Jim retired, he moved to Tulum, Mexico on the beach. It has white sand beaches and turquoise clear water, plus the living costs were well within his budget. He was blown away by the fish he caught every morning on the white sand beach with turquoise blue water. After a few months, Jim noticed he wasn't going to the beach as often as he thought he would. He was able to make friends with some of the musicians in town and play once or twice in the live music venues in town, but that tapered off after the first few months. He also missed hiking in the mountains and swimming in waterfalls. There are no mountains near Tulum. Let me explain a process you could use to increase your chances of success by using Jim as an example. Okay, expat, step number 1. Start by analyzing and honoring yourself. Your perfect retirement destination should be better than home and still fit into your budget. Jim should have added a few things to his perfect retirement list, but Jim was blinded by the beauty of the white sand, the blue water, and the easy life in Tulum. It never occurred to him that he would get bored after 6 months because he had multi-dimensional needs not considered. Jim's identity was partially defined by music and mountains. Tulum was never a great choice for Jim. He should have started with his own complexity before thinking about his perfect retired cheap paradise. There are 2 lists he should have made. The first list, things I love about my life now. For Jim, it would be mountains with waterfalls, fishing and hiking, live music venues that allow walk-on harmonica players. And he should have had a second list, things I will add to my perfect retired cheap paradise. Warmer year-round weather, white sand beach and blue waters, a beautiful woman at his side. So, step 1, make your 2 lists. Who are you now? Foodie, museums, live music, fishing, hiking, coffee shops, gamer, designing things, painting, windsurfing, hiking, fishing, making love. What will you add to that list to make it perfect? So you should make your 2 lists. The world's your oyster. Okay, it's time to think about how to integrate or compromise and prioritize these needs. Expat, step number 2. Jim completed his 2 lists above. He could integrate them in this way. Jim rather live in the mountains and drive up to 30 minutes to get to a white sand beach than live on a white sand beach and drive up to the mountains. So he'll be looking for a place with white sand beaches with mountains behind it. There should be fish in the ocean and the rivers. He wants warmer year-round weather, but he will live at a little higher elevation on the mountain, so it's okay if the beach is hot. His preference would be to find a mid-sized city that has a few live music venues. Before leaving the US, Jim had started playing harmonica in a park near his house, and people had gathered and were listening, clapping, and complimenting. He even met a few beautiful women that way. So if the new paradise location has a charming city center, a central park, or a boardwalk where he can play for people, he might be able to get his music fix and find love the same way. So that's his new paradise list. Now it's your turn. Prioritize your needs like Jim has. Think about your perfect retire cheap destination in a more holistic way. This will help you in the next phase on your search. Don't just watch videos and see beautiful places and pick the most beautiful place. You have to start with who you are first. Beauty is okay, but you also You can't only be at the beach for, an hour or two a day probably, unless you're a fisherman or some other windsurfer or something. Okay, so step 3, find the top 5 possible retire cheap in paradise contenders. Okay, now Jim has a vision of what he's looking for. He knows that a white sand beach is not enough. He needs mountains and waterfalls within 30 minutes. There's also needs to be a large enough community that enjoys evenings in a park. If you have traveled extensively, a few places may come immediately to mind. Many of the islands in the Philippines would be a nice fit. Bali, Indonesia also may be a contender. A few of villages at the foot of Kota Kinabalu on Borneo is also a possibility. Hoi An would be a lovely in Vietnam if Dalat was not 4 hours away. Possibly Cambodia with its rivers, nearby mountains and beaches. Possibly Toa Khao in Thailand, but I would need to check the elevation of the mountain first. If he's not strict on the sand color, there are a few mountains that may qualify in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Ecuador. After that, I would look at relief maps. Those are the maps that show how high mountains are. I would look for high mountains and warm weather within 30 minutes of the ocean. I'm sure there are many more in the ring of fire around the Pacific Ocean. So he needs to come up with the top 5 possible contenders, pick them out, watch some videos, and come up with the top 5. Okay, now next step, expat step number 4. Group and slow travel through regions and explore. Jim has identified the 2 major regions most likely to have his perfect retire cheap in paradise locations, Southeast Asia and South America. Next, he needs to visit 1 or more of the regions and slow travel through each region and see it with his own eyes. He should pick which region first based upon the videos he sees on YouTube that seem to showcase all of his desires most readily. By slow traveling, I mean visit each of the places in that region of the world one at a time and find his favorite. For example, we just spent 90 days slow traveling around Vietnam and identified our top 3 cheap in paradise locations. Before that it was Thailand, before that Malaysia, after that was Cambodia, and now we're in Vietnam. Spending 90 days traveling around a country may sound expensive, but it is cheap when you slow travel from city to city on buses and trains. It usually costs about $10 per person to transfer between cities near each other in the same country. Plus, we stay in inexpensive accommodations when we stay in each city to keep the overhead down. As we travel through each country, we write travel cheap reports about each city we visit. We also write reports ranking our favorite cities in each country and in the world. These reports may help you narrow which cities you decide to visit, but you'll need to visit your top picks before deciding where to retire cheap in paradise. Once you have visited your favorites in the world, it will be easy for you to pick where you want to start your retirement. Once you pick your initial favorite part of the world, you can visit other nearby places you missed during your slow travels to see if there is a gem, a hidden gem you missed the first time through. It is very likely you will fall in love with a nearby hidden gem and want to move there. That's why you should never buy real estate in your first year or 2. Slow traveling is so cheap. If you love it, you can keep moving forward like we do. Wait until you fall madly in love with a place before you decide hanging out for a few months or years. Or just pick your favorite and retire cheap in paradise. Okay, I promised you a free copy of this process. To get your free copy, just click more information link in the notes below this YouTube video to get how to find your perfect retire cheap paradise. At that link, you can also grab a free copy of my ebook, How to Fire Your Boss and Travel the World. Thanks for watching our video. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you'd like to watch more of our videos.